After missing the final 45 games last season, Zion Williamson has played in all 4 preseason games. So let's check out how he did last night.
Golf clap.
This might deserve even a little bit more than a golf clap because the Pelicans, they were taking on Paolo Banchero and the Orlando Magic. And if you remember, Richard, on October 19th, so just a couple of days ago, Paolo Banchero did this. He blew past Zion Williamson and just finished over Jonas Valanciunas like he had no regard for who was beneath the rim.
Hey, Zion, you got to prove you're that dude every day.
So, speaking of that, he said, I remember this. Oh, no, sir. You can't keep your hands in the cookie jar. Gets out in transition and throws it down with authority.
Look, that's the thing. I watched Paolo go against Kevin Durant. These top picks, these guys that are in this space, they love to compete against each other. It's good to see Zion show up because he's going to have a target on his back. Not because he's Zion Williamson, but because he has a chance to be great.
But he said, you know, in case you thought that was a fluke, Paolo, let me just pick your pocket one more time. Paolo had 2 turnovers in the game. Those were it. Zion, 5 steals in the first half.
Honestly, I'm going to say that turnover wasn't on Paolo. I think that was just a bad pass from our guy, and former number 1 pick also. So, a lot of number 1 picks in this game.
A lot of number 1 picks in this game. Zion just discarding the defender there. Comes back. He had 16 points on 6 of 8 shooting in this one, Rich.
Yeah, we love this for him, but let me say this. There's not a person that watches basketball that is surprised by this. His ability is not the question. His availability is.
This is what we've wanted to see from Zion. He has played in 114 regular season games over 4 NBA seasons while missing 194 games in this same time. He did play in all 4 Pelicans preseason games this year, as we mentioned, though. So I do want to welcome into the show our resident big man, Kendrick Perkins, to the conversation because, Perk, yesterday on our show, you had a big list of big players with the most big things to prove, something like that. And Zion Williamson ranked number 1 on your list. So what do you think his expectations should be going into this season?
I don't know. What are your expectations for him, Malika? Seriously, and that's the question that we need to be asking ourselves. What are our expectations for Zion Williamson? Like, he came out of college and he was on the same level in the same conversation as LeBron and Victor Wembanyama before his top prospects to ever come out. And all of a sudden, he has fallen, right? And so now I'm starting to say, you know what? We need to stop putting him in that conversation of actually being the face of the league or being, quote unquote, that guy. He still could be a franchise player, but is he a top-tier player? And I think that's what Zion Williamson have to go out there and prove this season, not only to us and the fans, but himself.
I think the expectation is to be available and to be on the floor. Is 65 games too high? History would say yes, but I think that really, for me, is where the expectation needs to be set.
But Malika, think about this for a second. We just watched Victor Wembanyama stay in San Antonio, right, throughout the entire offseason.
Sure.
Those are the things that you want to see out of your franchise guy and the guy that you have so much high expectations for.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see.
And the offseason, we see that translate to the regular season, how players spend it. Zion Williamson has said that he is more committed now. We'll see how it translates on the floor. I said it at 65 games. Perk, thank you so very much. I do want to stick in the West here. The Clippers, they took on the defending champions across the street in the preseason. I feel like I have to say that every time.
Thank you.
So Paul George was impressive in his 18 minutes of play. He scored 23 points, 9 of 13 shooting from the field. He finished with a plus 16 on the court, the best of any player on both teams. The Clippers, they beat the Nuggets. It doesn't really matter because it's a preseason. It's not about the final result. It's about the lineups, and that's what I want to take a little bit of a closer look at here, Richard.
Yes, no, look, obviously we saw the impact that Russell Westbrook had once he showed up in L.A., but there's more things that people don't fully understand. And look, we're going to get into this, and my iPad is going to break it down for you. Now watch, play. Watch where Russell Westbrook is right now. He's sitting there. He's the best rebounding guard, pound for pound, that we've ever seen. Now, I'm going to pause it real quick. There are 3 players behind Russell Westbrook right now. The Clippers were bottom 3rd in pace last year. So what does he do? He speeds up their pace. Now, watch this. He speeds up the pace, gets going, gets them an easy layup. This is something that forces defenses to sink, and you're going to see it again when the defense starts sinking. Now, again, he grabs the rebound, 3 players behind him. What does he do? We're going to take his time. He goes into the back down. Now, I'm going to pause it. Now, Justin Holiday, that's my bro. I don't know what you were doing, big guy, but look at what he does. It is 20 seconds on the clock. Russell Westbrook is already in the paint, and he's got shooters. This is what he didn't have in L.A. He didn't have shooters around him. Now you got Kawhi. Now you got Paul George. You have shooters all around him. Now you have to pay attention to what he's doing a little bit more. Like I said, 20 seconds on the clock. Continue. Now what are you doing? Look at this shot that Paul George. Now, Justin, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? What are you sucking? This is Paul George. He's a Hall of Famer. Why are you out? Why are you in here? Especially on Russell's post-up. This is Paul George, and then you're going to see what happens. He's forced to close out. And now Paul George, this is just easy money for him. So what he gets for these guys are easy shots, and the ancillary players too, because with that pace, it allows for other guys. You don't worry about Kawhi or Paul George getting shot. Now look at this. With Russell on the floor last year, they would have ranked second in pace. Overall, in the entire season, they were 21st in pace. So they're really probably about 25th in pace, and then he showed up and bumped them up to 21st. So Russell Westbrook is going to be a huge impact for what the Clippers are trying to do, and that's not even enough. We all know there's a certain name that they're trying to add into that mix. And if you add him into that mix and get some easy shots for these future 4 Hall of Famers, the Clippers could be an absolute problem.
See, this is what I love about the preseason. You start to get little glimpses of what we could start to see in the regular season. The Celtics, they went a little bit smaller last night. Tatum was at the 4. Horford came off the bench. Is there a clear answer, Brian, on who is starting for Boston?
No, Joe Mazzulla's been throwing some curveballs to us. He's used different lineups in all of these games. And I'm not going to focus so much on who's starting. I'm focusing on the style of play because even before they made the Drew Holiday trade, they made a big decision, and that was to trade for Kristaps Porzingis so they could both play big and shoot threes. Look at this progression. That 37 is the last year. 37 threes a game is the last year when Ime Udoka was the head coach. Last year, Joe Mazzulla plays more of a guard-heavy lineup, turns it up. Look at the preseason. That would be on pace for the NBA record for threes in a game. Look, last night their starting lineup took 33 pointers and none of them played more than 30 minutes. This is how the Celtics want to play. They want to play big with defense and they want to shoot 3-pointers. They are going to potentially threaten that Houston Rockets record this year, guys, because not only are we going to see Porzingis jacking them up, we're going to see more Peyton Pritchard, who they believe in, coming off of their bench. And this is the type of game, 120 points with their starters only playing 3 quarters, that the Celtics want to play this year, showing their offensive teeth.
Well, look, we had a conversation with Steve Kerr just a couple of days ago, and he said, look, I brought in my top 6 guys and said, hey, look, if we're going to do something special, there's going to be not everyone's going to start and not everyone's going to finish the game. But let's address the elephant in the room. And I think Steve Kerr is one of the best coaches in NBA history. I think Joe Mazzulla has a chance to be a great coach in this league. So he's got to bring these guys in and say, hey, look, we have a lot of talent. The only way we win a championship is all of us are pushing together. That means some people are going to start. That means some people aren't going to finish. So we're going to find out how committed the Boston Celtics are to being a championship team, and that means selflessness.
So forget about who's starting for a second. Perk, what's Boston's best 5-man lineup here?
You know what? It's the lineup that they had last night with Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And at times when you're closing the game, you actually, depending on who's doing better, you actually could roll with Al Horford at the 5 and actually mix in Peyton Pritchard for Derek White. At the end of the day, I feel like this lineup right here with Drew Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis is the lineup that's going to close games. And let me say this real quick. Starting in the NBA, you never take it for granted, but it's so overrated. It's like when you want to be in there, it's when it's in the thick of things in the 4th quarter. It's a possession by possession. The crowd is into it. It's intense. I started, every game in 2008, and I averaged like 28 minutes a game, but I was never in there in the 4th quarter. Doc would go small with James Posey and Kevin Garnett, and I used to wonder, forget having your name called. That's the time that you actually want to be in the moment. It's in the 4th quarter. So it's about who finished the game to me.
The Lakers.
Okay.
Perk had them number 3 in the West. They have the 4th shortest odds behind Golden State, the Denver Nuggets, and the Phoenix Suns. But me and Perk last year at the trade deadline got laughed at by RJ and plenty of people online by saying this team's going to make it to the playoffs. And not only did they make it after they retooled their roster, they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals before Nikola Jokic and Denver dispatched them. Now they have a whole offseason and a whole season together for this group, which was also upgraded with guys like Gabe Vincent and Christian Wood, to be that much more cohesive this year. So I think at plus 700, Perk, RJ, they're the best value in the Western Conference.
Perk's face this entire time.
Hey, don't sit back. Look, he's sitting back gloating. You about to fall out of that chair. You sit back anymore smiling.
Any team that has LeBron James on it, Perk, is a threat to make it to the NBA Finals. I mean, no matter what year it is. So let's talk about maybe some teams that might not have a championship quality here, championship equity, but still worth placing a little bit of a wager on.
Yeah, how about I start with the Orlando Magic? Their win total's 38.5. I would play that over. RJ, Perk, I mean, this team won 36 last year. Paolo Banchero was Rookie of the Year. Now, they have the Wagner twins, I should say. Jalen Suggs, Markelle Fultz has proven to be capable. They're a well-coached team by Jamal Mosley. Maybe Jonathan Isaac is finally healthy enough to play.
An early MVP bet that could pay off is what?
Jason Tatum, I think this might be the year we look at this Boston team adding Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis. They could be that 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And if that is the case, Tatum, who's going to average 30-plus points per game, this might be the year. He was one of the favorites last year. I think plus 800 is his price this year. Big Perk, I think it finally might be time for Tatum to make that leap to the MVP if the team lives up to expectation.
You like it, Perk?
I love it. I love it. I actually, look, people think I want the Celtics to fail. That's not true. I just be being honest. But Jason Tatum at this early bet for the MVP, I actually love that.
You are
but Tyler,
a hater. You are a hater. You are a hater.
Leave him alone. Tyler Fulgham, thank you so much for spending some time with us here on NBA Today.